you done now?
Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The legendary Mr. Christopher Lloyd. Christopher, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. Great introduction.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
Kelly Ripa.
Brad, thank you for having me.
Comedy.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias.
Good morning.
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Grammy Award winner Maya joins us.
How are you?
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat, Brad Gilmore.
Thank you, Keith, and welcome everyone to The Collection. My name is The Boat, Brad Gilmore. So excited that you joined us for another episode of the show. If this is your first time checking us out, welcome. Welcome to The Collection. This is literally, like they say in the intro, a collection of my favorite conversations with entertainers throughout the landscape, whether that's comedy, music, movies, television, film, sports, wherever. We have them here on The Collection, and today is no different. Really excited to get to our guest today, but I want to remind everyone, if you're checking this out and you haven't left us a rating or a review in your favorite podcast app, go ahead and do so. It really helps us over here at The Collection. This week, just as all weeks, we are entertaining you with 3 brand new interviews, and this one is one that I'm sure you're all going to love. Let's find out who we're talking to this week on The Collection. Can you smell it? Of course you can. For nearly 3 decades, the man known as The Rock has electrified the audiences of professional wrestling fans and moviegoers the world round. To date, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's films have grossed $3.5 billion in North America and over $10.5 billion worldwide. He's been called, lovingly I'm sure, Franchise Viagra, and the soon-to-be WWE Hall of Famer, we all know that's going to happen eventually, is a multiple-time professional wrestling world champion. That's right. The youngest at one point, at 27 years of age, The Rock was the WWF champion. Then when he made his debut in the film The Scorpion King in his first leading role, The Rock has not left the American pop culture consciousness ever since. A couple of years ago, NBC launched a show about his younger days when he was a kid, when he was a teenager, and when he was in college at the U. I'm holding up my hands for those of you just listening on podcast. And Young Rock has been such a fun show since its debut. I really love the concept of Dwayne Johnson on this presidential run, recounting stories of his childhood with Randall Park. And if you love pro wrestling, you get to see guys like Rocky Johnson, Andre the Giant, and more throughout the illustrious career of Dwayne Johnson. One of the men who play a Young Rock is Bradley Constant. Bradley Constant worked at a grocery store when he got an email from his agent with a picture of The Rock saying the words, "Just bring it." From there, he auditioned, got the role, and now 3 seasons in, people know him as Young Rock. And he joins us this morning on The Collection.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Eddie joins us right now. We're talking about the hit show on NBC that I love, and I know so many people do, Young Rock. You can get it Fridays at 8:30, 7:30 Central. One of the stars of the show, one of the man who plays the title character of Young Rock, joins us this morning, Bradley Constant. Bradley, how we doing, brother?
I'm doing very good. Thank you.
Hey, man, look, first off, congrats on the show and congrats on its success. It's been such a fun ride for people like me who've been a fan of, obviously, guys like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in pro wrestling forever, to see this journey and a lot of colorful characters pop up along the way. What's the experience been like for you? Is this life-changing? Is that an apt description, or is it even more than that?
I would say life-changing, because it's obviously a huge role and a great experience, but the change that I've had in my own life, I've grown so much as a person through the show. We filmed in Australia the first couple seasons. I had never left the country before I booked this role. So moving out there and living by myself and making new friends and doing this, this big job really made me grow a lot as a person. So yeah, it changed my life.
What's the flight time to Australia from where you are on the West Coast?
I think it's like 14
Oh my
hours,
goodness.
something like that. The second trip we had to go through Singapore, so we had to do like a little detour. I think that one was more like 18, 19 hours.
What do you do on it? See, I think the furthest flight I've ever taken is like 7 hours. So what do you do on a flight for 14 hours, 18 hours? Like, what do you do to not go crazy?
Man, I'll be honest with you. They take care of you. They put us in a first class. And I was recording everything. I had my phone out. They had nice little beds for us to sleep in. So I slept the whole time. It was easier than a 4-hour flight domestic.
I hear that, man. Hey, I'm gonna try to get like you one day, from one Bradley to another. Hey, man.
Hey,
So,
I'm not paying for that myself.
oh, I feel you. I understand. You said we're charging this one to the company.
Exactly.
As far as you said, it was life changing, but I kind of want to know what you did prior to the show. I was doing some research on you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I apologize if I am, but you worked at a grocery store and you worked at a public high school or a public school in New York.
Mm-hmm.
What did you
Yeah,
do at the
I
school?
worked with kids there was an after school program. So I did a lot of tutoring, and then I kind of was just basically like a teacher for kids for about, 4 or 5 hours after school, or sometimes shorter than that, just until their parents would come pick them up. And that was fun. I've always loved working with kids. I did a lot of babysitting also, just trying to save some extra money to pay rent and, pay for some acting classes. And I eventually started working at a grocery store, which was pretty fun. That was a good experience, and I had a lot of great coworkers. And I mean, most actors know that grind. You just have to have something that's flexible enough for you to, do an audition during the day where you can take off work and then come back later. You know.
Are you glad though that you had that opportunity to have those for lack of a better term, like normal jobs? Acting's not a normal gig. Were you
No.
do you think you benefited from having that kind of, I guess for lack of a better term, real world experience?
I really did. And especially having that before I ever had, a taste of what it was like to be on set or really be in the industry. Just to kind of work with, the same hardworking people every day and get to know each other and just try to make rent every week. That definitely sets a good mentality going forward. And I'm very happy to have had that experience first.
So people who I guess may be born after the year 2001, maybe, or sometimes surprised that Dwayne Johnson was a pro wrestler before. And I love that this show kind of reintroduces The Rock as, a guy from the Anoa'i family. His dad was Rocky Johnson, one of the first black tag team champions in WWF history. I'm a big wrestling fan, by the way. And being able to kind of tell that story, because I guess, and maybe I don't know how much you knew, Bradley, about wrestling prior to joining the show, but guys like Rocky Johnson were on the road 350 days a year. So people like Dwayne had to almost raise themselves and teach themselves in some ways of what it meant to be a man. How much did you know about wrestling prior to?
I was born in 1998, so not far off from those 2001ers, but I think just early enough to where my earliest memories, The Rock was all over the TV. My dad had wrestling on pretty much every night, and we'd have just old tapes of it, whatever we had. And I always remember seeing The Rock when I was little, and was a big fan. I thought he was the coolest thing ever. He looked like he could be my big brother or my dad. It was an easy guy to look up to, and I loved his energy. That's the thing I always took away from the most. Like, there's a lot of other cool characters in wrestling, but I don't think anyone ever quite had that. Just, I don't know. There's something to it. Some kind of energy that Dwayne had when he was in the ring and when he was doing his skits, everything.
Yeah, he
But
he
I
definitely
didn't know
electrified.
much about. Right, yeah, and I didn't know much about his dad either. I didn't even know his dad wrestled until I booked this show. And this show has honestly taught me so much more about wrestling than I even, could have dreamed. And I love it so much more than I ever did. It's really cool, really special, because wrestling is more of a family. These guys all knew each other. Their dads knew each other.
Yeah, no, man. It's definitely a family vibe. It's family experience. Now, you said whenever you first met Dwayne, I think it was via Zoom, and you said his shoulders took up the entire frame of the Zoom camera, and y'all chatted. But you said you had a couple character questions for him. What were those questions that you wanted to know?
Um, yeah, gosh, yeah, I can't believe that was 2020.
Wow.
It's already been a couple of years since that first phone call. I recorded it too. I need to go back and watch it, but it was the first video call. He popped up there. Yeah, the first thing I noticed was his shoulders, and it just did not feel real. He said, "Hey, Bradley," I'm like, "Did you just say my name?" Um, and most of the questions I did have prepped kind of flew out my brain because I just was too excited. But I do remember asking him, what was his kind of mind state? What kind of kid was he? You know, how did he feel about his parents? Because I had read some scripts already, and I saw that there were a lot of really, close moments with his parents, and a lot of like a complex relationship with his dad. And you know, there's nothing I could find in my research of him. Like even when I was auditioning, I couldn't find anything with him as a teenager. Just like one little dirty photo, and that's it. So, I just went in that audition and did my thing how I thought I would do it as a teenager. And honestly, he did that same thing when I hit him with one or two questions. He just kind of scrapped that out the window, and more so just started talking about what life was like for him as a teenager. Moving around a lot, and we drew some similarities between my own upbringing, and I think that was the best thing ever for me coming into this role because it kind of took away all that pressure of trying to, you know, perfect the role, I guess, or mimic anything. Just be myself, and that's all I've really had to do.
Being on a show like this where millions of people are going to watch it, it's on broadcast television. The world can see this show. I'm sure that, like as we talked before, there are things that have changed in your life, but you also have to keep focused on what the task at hand is, right? And not allow that notoriety that you've gotten now. Everybody knows Bradley Constant now, so you can't let that notoriety get to you. I'm sure. Did you ever ask Dwayne about any kind of advice, kind of to, I don't know, find your way through this game?
I've never had to ask him directly. I kind of just watch and listen. Luckily, I've been able to watch him work on set and see how he interacts with other people. And I've seen him interact with people who recognize him. And honestly, our whole set, all of our cast has that same energy. And we've all become a little bit more recognizable too. Now we're in our third season. And there's more of just a grateful feeling for that. It's really nice to hear people. Luckily, it's been mostly positive, say things about the show or recognize me, and it's never gotten to my head. I like to chill and play Xbox, and I don't really want to get a big head, and I love my job, and I'm just very grateful, that we've gotten to the point where people recognize us.
Amen, brother. I know you love your job. I mean, we're in season 3. I hope we get season 30 of Young Rock. It's a show I can't get enough of. Bradley Constant. You can follow him at Bradley Constant on Instagram. Young Rock, NBC Fridays at 8:30, 7:30 Central. Bradley, thanks so much for joining us this morning, brother. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, brother. You have a good day.
You too, man.